Sexual pleasure gives us joy only until we attain a higher level of happiness than that. Once we experience that higher joy, our desire for sexual pleasure diminishes. Youth is a time in a person's life when their desire for sexual pleasure is at its peak. However, if a young person finds a way, a path, to make them free from sexual pleasure, then their entire life becomes filled with joy. Everyone can free themselves from desire if they want to. But how can one break free from sexual desire? So, after listening to this story, you will have complete knowledge about sexual desire. Before you get lost in this story, please subscribe to this channel. Let's start the story now. During the time of Gautam Buddha in the Vaishali kingdom, there was a famous courtesan named Amrapali. She was very beautiful and was declared the courtesan of the city. That meant that the wives of the entire city would stand with golden chariots at her palace gates. Even great kings had to wait to meet her. She was just a courtesan, but she had become so wealthy that she could buy a kingdom. As beautiful as Amrapali's body was, her soul was thirsty for true love because she didn't become a courtesan by choice. She was forced into it by the king. The story behind her becoming a courtesan is interesting. Amrapali pretended to love her customers because she was paid for it. But deep inside, she despised them all because they used her as an object of pleasure. No one respected her as a human being. One day, Amrapali was standing on the balcony of her palace. Suddenly, she saw a young Buddhist monk passing in front of her palace, carrying nothing except an alms bowl. But he had tremendous awareness and the extraordinary power to attract people towards him. When the young Buddhist monk looked up and saw Amrapali, she was watching him. The young monk respectfully saluted Amrapali. Amrapali kept looking at the young Buddhist monk because, for the first time, someone had looked at her with respect. Someone had made her realize that she was a human being. Amrapali immediately descended the stairs and, coming out, touched the feet of the young Buddhist monk, saying, "Lord, please be my guest today and accept food at my palace." Afterward, Amrapali said, "Please do not refuse my invitation because, for the first time, I have invited someone. I have been invited by thousands of kings and emperors, but I have never invited anyone. This is my first invitation." The young Buddhist monk accepted Amrapali's invitation with respect and had a meal. After serving the meal, Amrapali said, "Lord, starting today, the monsoon season will begin in 3 days, which will last for 4 months, and I invite you to stay in my palace for those 4 months. For the upcoming 4 months, this palace will be your abode. I assure you that I will not be an obstacle to your meditation. On the contrary, I will do my best to make your meditation facilities comfortable." The young Buddhist monk said, "Mother, I cannot make a decision about this matter myself. I will consult Lord Buddha regarding your proposal. If he permits me, I will accept your offer to stay in your palace." Saying this, the Buddhist monk left. Before the Buddhist monk reached Buddha and discussed Amrapali's proposal, some other monks present there said to Buddha, "You should stop that young monk. Amrapali, the courtesan, has invited him to stay in her house for 4 months. It's not appropriate for a monk to stay in the house of a courtesan for 4 months. It will send the wrong message to our community." Buddha said, "Please calm down and await the arrival of that monk." A while later, the young monk touched Buddha's feet and said, "Lord Buddha, a lady named Amrapali from the city has invited me to stay in her house for 4 months during the upcoming monsoon season. I did not respond to her invitation but told her that I would go to her house only if you permitted me to do so. Therefore, Lord, I will do as you instruct." The young monk referred to Amrapali as a woman, avoiding the term courtesan. Buddha looked into the young monk's eyes and said, "You may stay." Suddenly, an elderly monk stood up and said that Buddha's decision was not correct. He claimed that the young monk was hiding the truth. According to him, a woman named Amrapali had invited him to stay at her house, but she was not just any woman, she was a courtesan. Buddha responded, "I know, and since he did not use the term courtesan, it means he holds respect for her." Therefore, I am granting him permission to stay there. Many monks present were incredulous that Buddha had allowed a young monk to stay at a courtesan's house for 4 months. After 3 days, the young monk left to stay at Amrapali's house. As he departed, other monks present began to speculate about him. Buddha calmed them down and said, "I trust him. I have seen in his eyes that he has no desire for worldly pleasures. If his meditation is deep, he will transform Amrapali's heart. If not, Amrapali will change his focus with all her charm. It is a question of meditation and worldly attraction, and we will find the answer after 4 months." Upon hearing Buddha's words, the monks present expressed their doubts and concerns about the risks he was taking by allowing the young monk to stay with Amrapali. They believed that since the monk was young and Amrapali was beautiful, it could lead to distractions. Time passed, and 4 months of the rainy season went by, and the young monk returned. Upon his return, he touched Buddha's feet, and Amrapali was also present. The young monk introduced her to Buddha. Buddha said, "This is Amrapali, and she wishes to be ordained. She is an extraordinary woman, not just beautiful but with a soul as pure as you can imagine," the young monk added. Amrapali touched Buddha's feet and said, "For the first time in my life, I fell in love with this young monk at first sight. That's why I tried to attract him with my beauty multiple times, but I was completely unsuccessful. Instead, this young monk made me aware of meditation and taught me that real life is not about indulgence but about meditation. That's why, Buddha, I want to donate all my wealth to your monks and spend the rest of my life in meditation." After this, Amrapali became the first woman among Buddha's disciples to attain self-realization. Buddha addressed all his disciples, saying, "If you fear the company of a courtesan, then there is nothing to fear from that courtesan. Instead, that fear is born within your own impure mind because you have suppressed your desire. Desire can only be transformed." Friends, we all want to end our sexual desires, and suppress them, but sexual desire is an energy source. It is an energy that can never be destroyed but can only be transformed. If you redirect the power of your sexual desire to another place, in a different direction, only then can you get rid of sexual desire. But remember, we don't even think about getting rid of sexual desire. We just need to transform our energy. Now, where do we channel that energy? We can use it for our creative power, for meditation. As we become more conscious, we will find more joy in our lives than in sexual desire. If you found this story informative, please let me know in the comments section, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. See you in the next story. Until then, take care and stay blissful.